quick introduction. This is my boy Colton Whitney. He's out of LA. If you have any referrals, agent referrals, send them or buyer or seller referrals, send them directly to him for hooking us up and being here. He's an amazing friend, an amazing realtor, an amazing team leader. He lost to me in arm wrestling. I can't count how many times. But thanks for being here. He's going to go over his some of the kind of key points of his buyer consultation and value proposition. I love him to death. Colton, thanks for being here. I'll give you the stage, dude.
Thank you, brother. So I'll kind of go in, and guys, feel free to ask questions. This is going to be a lot less of like a webinar type of format, and feel free to just chime in whenever. Our whole thing, like with the buyer consults, it's so funny because until we run a competition around it, nobody would do them. And we ran a competition around them, and we've had 26 buyer brokerage agreements signed from the same agents that 20 days ago said that they couldn't do it. And like the real big thing that I really want to focus on and like why it's so important. One, whatever happens with the lawsuits and buyer's agency, whatever happens with all that's going to happen. And one, I want us to be prepared for it. But two, we work too damn hard. We do too damn much to get zero commitment from the people we are putting this work forward with. And like, if you want to really, like what my mission with my team has been is I need to get them bought into why this is so incredibly important before they can get a client bought into why this is so incredibly important. And the reality of it is, if dependent on experience level, if you are experienced, you already know how hard this is about to become. And if you're not experienced, you're about to be taught a really harsh lesson over how difficult the market's about to become. I don't know what you guys are experiencing there, but we are already experiencing, we're back to 10 to 15 offers. We're back to ridiculous bidding wars, and it's January, and it started late December. So it's like one of the biggest mistakes we can make is being the Vanna White realtors of the world who show up, showing somebody property, talking about how beautiful it is, talking about features that they probably know more about that property than you do because they've been doing research on it. And all you did was show up for an appointment, answer a call. Not saying that that's all we do. I'm not talking negatively on anything that you guys are doing, but most agents just show up with the black and white MLS sheet, show the property, let me know what you think. Yeah, we'll get back to you. They drive off into the sunset, and then we wonder why our conversion's shit. So our whole focus is like, what do we do to make sure that on that first appointment that we're able to secure a strategy session? And that's been a big push. So now there's a huge push in the industry for people to push strategy sessions. But then even like the big coaching companies that I'm a part of that have like their amazing masterclass speakers who are doing, it's like they're doing buyer consultations, sitting you down, talking about your preferences, talking about what you're looking for, talking about your budget, and pretending that that's a magnet to work with you. And it's not. Like what my main focus is one, how can you magnetize yourself so that they undeniably know that without you, they're not going to have access to something. Like that's the most important thing for me. I want them to know that with you, you're going to give me something that without you, I'm not going to have. And we need to be really intentional with how we articulate that value to the people that we're working with, because when they see that, when they see what's in it for me, they'll give it to you. But if you're not showing what's in it for them, you're going to struggle with this. And what's funny is I have an agent who, oh my God, her first buyer consultation was the worst that I've ever seen. And I'm not being mean. She knew. She was like, oh my gosh, I froze. I didn't know what to say. And she was like, my team requires you to sign this, sign it. She got it freaking signed. Like she actually got it signed and did nothing that we told her to do because she just asked for it, which just proves one thing. If you ask, you get. And if you don't ask, you don't get. Now, I want to make sure that she can tactfully ask in a way to where somebody's not signing something because they got a gun pointed at them. That's a big piece of this. But most importantly, the reason that I want it is you are failing your clients if the day they get to the offer table, the first time that you're talking about, hey, does your lender have the ability to perform within 10 days? Does your lender have the ability to get an appraisal back to us within 3? Does your lender have the ability to get us a loan approval back within 5? Like the worst thing you can do for your clients is not already have those details ironed out. And if you're failing to slow them down to where that is the consistent scramble process that you guys are putting your client through, you got to understand you are failing. Like you need to be able to articulate the value and slow a client down on the front end so that we can, what I call load the cannon, to make sure that when we do identify that perfect property, not only are you going to know the strategy that we are going to implement, you're going to know the tools that we are going to utilize during the contract, the mechanisms that we can use with escalation clauses, the contingencies. Like, I need to make sure that a client understands that we're going to prevent you from overpaying and we're going to prevent you from missing out. Does everybody agree that if you can articulate a strategy that's going to prevent them from overpaying, that's going to save them a ton of money, and that's going to prevent them from missing out on opportunity, that most people will be willing to sit down with you? For sure, everybody wants to save money. Nobody wants to miss out, and nobody wants to overpay. So how do we prevent them from doing that? In ours, it's our offer strategy. So I'll start from the beginning and get to this and what we're going to go over. But you have to understand, like, the buy-in for you is you work way too fucking hard. Sorry for the way I talk. Danny knows this, so he put me on here. So hopefully that's okay with you all. You guys all work way too hard to not follow this process. We need to make sure, instead of you going out and having to submit 13 offers, I want you to go out and submit 2 to be able to get your acceptance. Like, because we're back to the date, like, it's getting crazy. So you guys need this to make sure that you're taking control of your clients, to make sure that your clients are fully prepared and have the cannon loaded. So when that perfect property does come available, not only do they know how to be competitive, not only do they know and have already realistic expectations, like, the point of the buyer consultation is to set expectations. A lot of our clients typically have a 90 to 120 day, their perspective on the market is still back in October, November. They think what's happening in the market is from October to November. They're not going to realize what's happening today until March, April, May. Like, we already know this. So our job is to make sure that we reset whatever they currently believe is happening in the market, and that we show them truly what is happening. And again, I know you guys are in a different market than us. You guys are typically a little bit slower than we are down here. But you guys are typically also a little bit behind us. So what starts to happen here typically starts to happen to you guys 2 to 3 months later. So one, the buyer consultation, we're going to set expectations. I'm constantly hearing agents talk about, well, my clients are, gosh, they call me at 10 o'clock at night. They do this, they do that. They're blowing me up 24/7. It's like, hey, the entire point of a strategy session is to set expectations. If you have working hours, which is totally up to you, if you have the expectation that, hey, if you reach out to me after 7 o'clock, unless it's an emergency or the house is burning down, I will return your call the next business day. If you never set the expectation, don't be mad at clients for crossing lines that you never established. So the whole point of the buyer consultation is for you guys to be able to set those expectations, for you to be able to talk about communication preferences, for you guys to be able to set the kind of protocols for how homes are shown, how showings are going to be set. Like, I have a production partner. I don't physically go show homes anymore, but my production partner does. And we set the stage for how that process is going to work for the client during the strategy session. The most important thing is we're going to make sure that we're on the same page of the offer strategy. How can they be competitive? We're going to make sure that we protect them from their 2 biggest fears. And every single buyer in every single market's 2 biggest fears are they're fearful of missing out and they're fearful of overpaying. So we're going to make sure we're on the same page of strategy. We're going to invest in the client on the front end and prepare them for the process. We're going to make sure that we truly build rapport. We're going to make sure that we are identifying what they're looking for. And then most importantly, articulating the strategy for how we're going to obtain it for them. We are going to make sure that during that strategy session, you're giving yourself an environment to show off. And when I say show off, I'm not talking about how many sales you've done. I'm not talking about how great of a car you have. I'm talking about, I want you to ooh and awe them with your market knowledge and your strategy and how you articulate it and how they know, holy shit, this person is saying and doing things that nobody else is. This person is impressive. And even if you're like, we have new agents doing this now, they sound like economists because we're making them practice the talking tracks and the market trends and the data that we articulate. And they're showing up in such a knowledgeable way to where clients know this is my clear choice. That's the point of the consultation. We're going to make sure we do the deep dives. And I make it clear too, when I ask somebody like, hey, what are we going to go over during the strategy session? I make it very clear that, hey, most agents are going to sit you down for what's called a buyer consultation. All they're doing is sitting you down to talk about the pretty colors that you're looking for in the floor plan and the square footage and the price. And yeah, we're going to go over all of that. But it sure as fuck's not what's going to bring you value with my process. What is going to bring you process is I'm going to audit your financing to ensure that your lender is not only going to give you the best out of pocket, the best interest rate, the best service, but most importantly, have the ability to perform fast enough to where we can outcompete anybody who we're going up against. We're going to make sure that you understand how I'm going to connect you with off-market opportunities that without me, you're not going to have access to. I'm going to make sure that you understand the offer strategy that we use that will create favoritism and first right of refusal with the sellers who we're submitting offers on. Because the worst thing in the world that I can do is have you submit offers the way that 99% of agents do, that is almost a guaranteed way to end up with rejection or non-response. We're going to talk about strategy and ensure that we're going to save you a ton of money. We're going to make this process more efficient, and we're going to save you a ton of time in the process. That's what we're going to discuss. And there is going to be a section, of course, where we talk about your preferences and we talk about budget and we talk about that typical stuff. But 90% of this consultation is going to be about strategy and how we're going to position you in the marketplace to be a more successful buyer. Does that sound fair? And then they say yes. You're going to hear me use affirmation. You're going to hear me affirm a lot. And I always say, does that make sense? Does that sound fair? And I always wait and I will pause until they give me an answer. And then that's when we'll always tie them to the next event. Fantastic. When would work best for you? I can do in person or I can do virtually. And then when we're going to tie them to the next event, we're going to set the appointment. So I'll show you kind of what we do. And then at the very end, at the very end of all of it, we're going to look them in the eye and we're going to do the part where everybody chickens out on. And it's going to be, hey, the next step is for us to make the decision to work together. Would you like me to be the agent that gets to work in finding you your perfect home? And you're going to look them in the eye. You're going to say it super confidently, and you're going to be amazed at how many people are just going to say yes. Fantastic. The next step is we formalize our relationship, and that's when you pull out the buyer brokerage agreement. We make it very clear, guys, this is fully cancelable. There's no penalty. There's no consequence. The last thing in the world that I would do is commit you to a service with a person who you don't want to work with. I promise you, if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you either, because it's not going to be fun for either of us. This agreement is fully cancelable. The only thing that I ask is that if I'm going to invest all my time, my resources, and take time away from other clients who I could be working for to provide for my family, is that you give me the same commitment that I'm going to give you. And if at any given point in time you feel that I'm not performing or upholding my end of this obligation and I'm not doing exactly what I told you I will do, I'm going to tell you now, you should fire me. And you just got to give me a 24-hour notice to cancel this agreement, and you can go work with anybody you want without any penalty or consequence. The only thing that does, and by the way, it's really an imaginary leash for the clients, because EXP nor any other brokerage is going to go enforce this. They're not. Nobody's going to go enforce a contract. The brokerages aren't going to back you. So just know they're cancelable anyway. And even if you told them no, the brokerage will still cancel it. But what I want to happen when they walk into the home, and I'm going to look at Shannon, and when I walk into Shannon's listing and I see 76 people lined up to take a look at this property, and Katya, is that your name? Am I saying that correct? And Katya is my realtor. Katya is showing I didn't want to bother Katya. I didn't want to bother her this weekend. I know she's got a family, so I didn't want to bother her. So I just slipped into Shannon's open house. Well, now I see 75 people, and Shannon walks up to me and she goes, "Hey, do you currently have an agent?" "Oh yeah, but she was out of town or whatever, so I just wanted to stop by and take a look." "Cool, not a problem. Just so you know, we've got 72 offers on the property. If you really want a chance in hell to get your offer accepted, you should go through me. I'll give you first right of refusal. I'll tell you where the other offers are at." The only thing that this buyer brokerage agreement does is it's going to put an imaginary wall in front of the client, like, shit, I can't do this. I've got an agreement signed. I've got a commitment. And it still does happen, but it's just going to prevent it and mitigate how often it happens. So the entire point of the consultation is we're going to accomplish all of that. The biggest mistake that we make is you don't freaking do them, or you do them, but you refuse to actually get the buyer brokerage agreement signed, because everybody chickens out at the end when I tell you to lean in and tell them the next step is for us to make the decision to work together. Would you like me to be the agent who's going to get to work in finding you your next home? That's a mistake that we make, is people skip that part. You guys, that agent of mine who did it, she literally did not do a single thing I'm about to tell you at all. It was the worst buyer consultation ever, but she remembered the one part: get this signed so she could win the prize to go on the boat to Catalina when this competition's over. So she turned it, she submitted it, and they signed it. So I promise you, if you just follow the process that we're going to go through, people will do it. And are you going to get kickback? Sometimes. But what I want you to find out, and what I want you to track and gauge, is what percentage of these people are actually committing, and are you getting to buy in? Because if, let's say, William is only getting 16% of his strategy sessions to conclude with a buyer brokerage agreement, and Kayla is getting 97, guess what William really quickly finds out? I have a skill-based problem and a process problem that I now can work on to improve my process to increase that buy-in and to increase that buyer, that commitment. Because when we can focus on the skill set and we start saying it more confidently, I promise you, clients are going to get into line and just listen to you and wait for your orders. But it comes down to the confidence. So we are literally, this is all we are practicing. And Danny, one thing that's worked really well for us is the worst thing I did was go through the whole session like this and be like, hey guys, now you go do it. It was terrible. So literally 1 week at a time, there's 3 pages in this entire thing that I focus on. And then my agent, it's funny because there's always the excuses and there's always things that, and they're like, hey, this is too long. Guys, I can do it with a napkin. I don't need the buyer consultation. You don't need this. You guys can literally copy paste this. You can rip it off. You can literally scratch out my logo and put yours on. I don't give a shit. But you don't need this strategy session. You don't need this booklet. You don't need to change it. You don't need to make it prettier. I can literally do it with any of you without this booklet. I'm going to talk about financing. I'm going to talk about offer strategy, and I'm going to talk about how we identify off markets. That's it. We really don't even need this. It's just there to look pretty. And if you have an engineer type of client, which any of you who have worked with, you know, they want every detail, they want every dollar, they want every fee. So the book can be good for those type of clients, but it's not what's most important about this process. What else do we want to go? Any questions before we get started on that?
I got a question. So we don't know what's happening with the commission lawsuit. This is just a really pie in the sky question, but
yeah,
if it does take the flip, what do you think that's going to do to the impact of, because we are in Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
And all of our clients are constantly there from their different cultures.
Yeah.
And so many of them already ask for huge chunks back.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about how you're going to combat buyers directly paying the commission?
So we already do it. Like I do it with investors, and we do it. We have a pool of investors who they know they're going to be paying our fee because we're putting them together with deals off market, and they know our fee associated with doing it. And they know that in order to get access to the properties, in order to get into my network, that they're going to have to pay me.
Yeah.
We're already doing it. People do. Is it going to be far less? And is there going to be a lot more kickback? 1,000,000,000%. But the more value, like I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say, you got to add more value. What the fuck does that mean? I just hear everybody saying, you got to add value. What does that mean? Somebody tell me. You got to ask better questions. Tell me what the better questions are. Like you hear all this bullshit where people say it because it sounds good. And it's like, if you can't clearly identify real quick what adding value is and what your value proposition is, you're majorly fucking up. Mine is going to be, I'm going to offer you an offer strategy that's going to, 1, win you more of the properties you submit on. 2, that's going to secure you a finalized price that's far less than not using my strategy. I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to identify it and connect you with off markets. 1, we already have a substantial list of off market properties that you have access to, which by the way, all of you do too through EXP. We have a buyer concierge team that literally is going to hunt and create inventory for you that otherwise without us doesn't exist in the areas that you're looking that fits the exact criteria. And then we'll go in depth on how we do that. We're going to make sure that we audit your financing. And on average, we're saving our clients roughly about $3,600 out of pocket just by auditing their existing financing and getting rid and cleaning up and improving their additional offer. Like there is true value proposition that can come from a really great agent, but until you have the ability to articulate it in a way to where the client can understand it, digest it, and be excited to work with you, you got to practice the shit out of it until you get good at it. And it's
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Is this how fast you always say it, or do you kind of say it by parts?
You know, it's funny. Danny's the one that calls me out on this. He's like, you always seem like such a hard ass on Zooms, but he's like, in person, you're total soft as baby shit. I don't know why, but I switch modes and I just start getting like passionate and talking really fast.
He's just very intense when he's coaching.
It's the only time. When I'm talking with a client and I'll try to shift tones, it's a way, I talk a little bit slow. I always talk fast, but it's a much more empathetic approach. It's a much more empathetic tone. I talk to my clients like I talk to my daughter. Like it's just a much sweeter approach. But I just get frustrated because when we're with agents, we like to do dumb shit and we refuse to follow processes that work. And we try to come up with every excuse as why this works in your market or this works for you, but it won't work for me. And I have people be like, well, you have access to these off markets. Yeah, but I didn't before and I still offered the same service. You guys all have access to off markets. It's just whether or not you're willing to go through the work to actually find them. And PS, how many of these clients have I connected with one of my off markets in my entire career? Maybe 2 or 3. However, was that the mechanism and the service that I offered my client that secured me their commitment? It'd be countless. I have no idea, but it's a substantial portion. And we often discount what it is. And I'm now going to try to slow down and talk, but it's like, it's a hard struggle. So thank you for calling me out on it. But we really just got to focus on doing the things that works. I lost my train of thought. The other piece is like when you do set a buyer consultation, making sure that you follow the processes that are going to get more people to show up. Do understand like calendar invites. And this goes for every appointment ever. Guys, I try to get my hair cut every 2 weeks from a barber. The dude refuses to send me a calendar invite. I skip like 17 of our scheduled appointments because it never makes my calendar. Somebody else in my office puts a calendar in that place. I get the text message, where you at? Dude, my bad. Totally spaced it. I didn't put it on my calendar. That happens to you and your clients. So doing a calendar invite will increase your show up rate by 12%. Just by doing a calendar invite, if you set 100 appointments, 12 more of them will actually show up if you do that calendar invite. So could you sell more houses if you got face-to-face with an extra 12 people? 100%. So we just got to follow processes because we always look at like from conversations to appointment set to appointments met. What can we do to turn more of your conversations into a set appointment? What can we do to get more of those people to actually show up? A calendar invite, text, doing text message confirmations 24 hours before, doing a pre-appointment collateral value delivery 24 hours before, which is comps and all that type of stuff. Like there's little steps that you can be taking in best practices to get more of the people to show up. And then when you meet with them, what percentage of those people are choosing to meet with you again? Because these are all things that you can improve that are naturally going to improve conversion. So I really am a big fan of tracking because when you guys start trying to do these buyer consultations, I want you to track how many you're asking for versus how many you're securing. And if you're not securing any, you know that we've got a skill set issue that we got to first identify what's specifically going to interest and motivate this person. Because if Mike is somebody who brings up, man, there's no inventory. If I could tell Mike, I can create inventory for you. Would you? I'm not going to say it like this, but Mike, I have a team who solely specializes on creating inventory in the areas of interest in homes that fit your exact criteria by connecting with sellers who own the type of homes that you're looking for, and we connect them off market with our buyers. Would it be worth 30 to 45 minutes of your time to sit you down so we can walk you through how we can accomplish that for you? Mike, for that, is going to be a lot more interested. If you guys talk to a client who's getting their ass kicked and they've submitted multiple offers, but they're not getting accepted. Hey, the average agent is submitting about 13 offers to get an offer accepted. By the way, make up the number if you need to. Half the numbers I'm telling you right now are total bullshit. But it's like, if you can make them sound impressive, the real statistics that I'm talking about, the 12%, anything I tell you about process and improvements in the KPIs, those are real numbers that I actually have access to. There was a point in our market where we were submitting 27 offers to get one offer accepted. It was that competitive in 2021 to where the industry standard was 27. We got ours all the way down to 2.7. And the reason is because we can submit offers that are going to give the seller the illusion that they've got a guaranteed sale while still maintaining the full protection of a fully contingencyed offer. We just make sure we get our loan approved and we can get our appraisal complete within 5 days and of our 5-day inspection period, which that's the avatar for the offer that we write. And when we write offers like that, more of our offers get accepted. So that's what's going to incentivize a person who's been getting their ass kicked. And then there's the people who just don't know anything. They're brand new first-time home buyers. And it's like, hey, there's a lot of areas for you to be taken advantage of during the home buying process. My job is to make sure that I protect you from that. My job is that I tell you what to look for. And my job is to make sure that I'm there as your body and your security guard to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of by the lender or any of the additional service providers who are going to charge you up the ass just to get this deal done. Like there's just different methods that you can be using for each different type of client that if you can identify their sweet spot and what's going to motivate them, you're going to get far more of these people to commit to doing the strategy session. So when you're setting the endpoint, use calendar invites. if possible, don't set these things out a week away. The further the runway from the time that you set the appointment to the actual appointment, the less likely they are to actually show up. And guys, you're going to set buyer consultations and you're going to have people that don't show up. It doesn't mean you stop asking for them. It's just part of the process. Anything else I need to go into? Nope, I think we're good here. So any questions before we move on to that?
No, but I just want to say this is all so great to hear out loud.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And it's all stuff that we all know. It's just like, we got to do. And the one thing, like each of these little steps is a step that might not seem that impactful. Like each of the things I'm going to tell you to do, you might choose to skip some because it's more convenient. You might not do this, this, and this because it's not as convenient for your process, or maybe you're more uncomfortable. Just know nothing we do, like I tell my team constantly, guys, I don't sit here all day just trying to find shit to throw at you to piss you off. Like, I swear to God, I don't. But we do test and track everything. And I promise you, any of these steps that we add create a better outcome. I worked my entire life thinking that doubling down was the right answer. I had my daughter when I was 16 years old. I worked, she's 16 now. Like, I worked 80 hours a week, took pride in it, and always justified the amount of time that I spent away and the amount of time that I worked, and justified it by saying one day it's going to be worth it. Well, I got to one day and I can fucking promise you it was not worth it. I regret every day, every weekend, every night that I was gone until 9, 10 o'clock with clients. I have no bigger regret than the amount of time that I allowed myself to work, because if I was smart, I would have figured out I don't got to do more. I just got to do better. And if I'm going to do better, what can I do to do better? So I could have been home every day by 5. So I could have been available on more weekends. Like, this process that we're going to talk about is better, not more. And it's going to give you the ability to identify who in my pipeline is worthy of my time and attention, because you are going to discern real quick the people who are not willing to sit down and truly set them up for success aren't your people. And now, does that mean you're going to ignore them? No. But does it mean that you need to do a real good job of discerning who's worthy of your time and who's not? Because we spend all of our time trying to turn shit into gold, and in the process, we turn gold into shit. So I really want you to find out who's your gold and only focus on them. In this process, if they can sit down with you, I promise you, the people who do, those are your people. Those are your clients. That's going to be your next transaction. So the great thing about this process is it's going to help you discern who's worthy of your time and your attention, and you're just going to go give them all of your bandwidth to help make sure that they get a good outcome. Let me find, I want to make sure I'm not skipping anything here. Okay, so when we're asking to secure, and I can send you guys this, when we're trying to secure the buyer consultation, again, this can be your generic script for asking it to everybody. But it's like, hey, so the next step is, the way that I best serve my clients is for us to meet so I can walk you through the home buying process from start to finish, get you up to speed on what's happening in the market, and do a deep dive on exactly what you're looking for in your next home. Does meeting at my office or virtually work better for you? And it's literally, you're just giving them the options. So the generic basic one, Tom Ferry has one. It's like, hey, has anybody sat you down to show you exactly what you need to do to be a successful buyer in this market? The one that we personally like is always a tie down. Like, my goal, if you want to turn more of your conversations into appointments, end every single one of your conversation trying to set the damn appointment. And if you want to get more opt-in to the appointment ask, you tie them down to 2 specific dates as opposed to yes or no. So it's like, hey, let me tell you what works best for our clients. Is the next step, always outline what the next step is for us to sit down so I can walk you through the home buying process from start to finish, get you up to speed on exactly what's happening in the market, and do a deep dive on exactly what you're looking for in your next home. Does meeting at my office or virtually work best for you? And you're just giving them one of the 2 options. No is not one of them. Are you still going to get people who say no? Yes, 100%. Well, a much smaller percentage of those people say no when you don't give them the option. Yes, and it's why talking tracks, and it's why the way that we speak matters, is because when you give them the tie down and you give them the 2 options, more people are going to commit to those options. That's you guys taking control, putting your hands on the steering wheel versus the control that most of us just give up to our clients, and it's why we don't get good results. So the best way is, if somebody talks about inventory, you utilize, I'm going to create off-market inventory for you. The best thing is when people talk about affordability, you talk about the importance of having the right lending to ensure that you're not paying any junk fees, you're not paying too much money out of pocket, you're not having to do buy down of points. Like, you really got to make sure that you have a lender who truly is going to be able to save you money from having to be put out of pocket, and most importantly, making sure that we have a lender who can do all of those things while being able to perform fast enough to make sure that we can beat all of our competition. Like, so there's different ways to secure them. The general is what I just gave you, but understand the more pinpointed you can get to their particular pain point and how you can articulate you're going to be the solution to that pain point through this process, you're going to get more people to commit and agree. Any questions on that? Cool.
Wait,
Danny,
cool. I have a question. Sorry, you went through it kind of quick, but so you're basically talking about setting the stage and saying what you're going to do for them, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, I had to get water. Yeah.
So you said you're going to tie them down with off-market opportunities and securing a great lender, and then I think there was another one. I couldn't hear it.
Yeah. So we're going to make sure that we submit our offers in a way that's going to create, like, this is our thing. And I always have the same talking tracks. You guys can create your own. Mine just work well for me. I have agents in my team like, dude, I don't talk like you. Cool. Come up with your words and say it how you say it. Like, it doesn't have to be my exact words. I hate scripts, but you do need to do a really good job of storytelling. You need to do a really good job of identifying what they need to be fearful of. And you need to do a really good job of showing them the path that's going to get them around that fear. Like, that's your job. And the best storytellers have the ability to do it. And this is a real story, and it can be yours. We had an agent, because you'll talk about people, I'm working with the lender. They're a family friend of mine. We literally had somebody who refused to get a second opinion from our lender for their family friend. And when we got their closing statement, they were being charged $40,000 out of pocket to get them their rate and to get them the affordability, to get them the qualification that my lender was able to get them with $0 out of pocket. My lender took over the transaction. We were able to get them a 2-week extension, saved them $40,000 out of pocket from their family friend. So regardless of whether you have a family friend or a connection, like, you need to be getting a second opinion to ensure that you're getting the best possible results. And worst case scenario, Katya, your lender, might be the best outcome. She might be the best option, but you need to get a second opinion, because if she's not, worst case scenario, you use my lender to leverage a better deal with your lender. It's a win-win for you. There's absolutely no loss in this equation. Does that make sense? Yes. Fantastic. When would be the best time for us to get you connected with them? But it's like, you got to be able to tell them the story, and the best storytellers are always the ones that win. Did you have any other questions on that? As always, I ramble way too long, and I know we're going to run out of time, but I'll make sure we get through all this. Danny?
You're good. I was going to say, don't worry about it.
So when we sit somebody down, like, I'm going to share my screen here. Danny, can you give me a thumbs up if you see that McClure Group thing? Okay, this is going to be the book. Literally, in this whole book, we'll send you guys this. Danny, you can even ask Holly for the editable version. You guys can probably literally just go remove our logo, put your address, and then do whatever you want with it. But again, don't worry about the damn book. Like, there's going to be people, I promise you, that listen to us do this, and they're going to wait 6 months to start this process because they're trying to create a fancy fucking book, and it's the dumbest thing in the world. You don't need it. So one, we will always talk about, like, when we sit somebody down, we're going to talk to them, we're going to build rapport. The worst thing you can do when you sit somebody down for the consultation is immediately go into pitch mode. What you want to do, talk to them, sit down. What's bringing you into the area? Where are you coming from? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? What's got you moving here? Help me understand the motivations. And it's like, if there's a spouse, like, hey, I'm going to look at the husband and I'm going to say, hey, tell me what the perfect and ideal home looks like. Pretend she's not here. And then we'll talk to the wife and I'll say, hey, tell us what your perfect home looks like. Pretend he's not here. If they're not on the phone, like, sometimes you have one or the other. We're just trying to find out, what is everybody truly looking for? What's the real motivations? How serious is it? If I could wave a magic wand, when would you be into your next home? Like, and we're just going to sit and we're going to ask little rapport building questions like that. And we're going to build rapport. Can you guys still see this book here? Sorry, I'm on dual screens and it looks all screwed up on my side. Let me see if I can move these.
You're good.
And a really cool part, like, the intro is literally only going to be 10 minutes long at the absolute longest. We're going to welcome, you're going to do a little introduction to yourself. You're going to outline the agenda of the consultation. You're going to establish a comfortable environment. I make it very clear to people, guys, I don't know why, and I always make a joke, I don't know why, but people pretend like I own these homes and I'm going to be offended over their feedback. I want you to tell me everything that you love and hate about them, because the more that I understand about what you're truly looking for, the better ability that I have to set our targets on exactly what you're looking for. So you don't got to whisper about how hideous this house is. You don't got to whisper about the shitty pink curtains. You can say it all out loud, and I'm going to utilize that information to better find you the perfect home. Make sure, like, guys, I expect full transparency from you, and you need to expect full transparency from me. And I'll always ask people, especially when delivering hard news. It's like, hey, do I have your permission to be 100% honest? And I'll get permission from them. And it's like, hey, what you're doing, and they'll say yes, they'll give you permission. It's like, hey, I understand what you're looking for, and I will never push somebody beyond their budget, ever. But if there's somebody who's trying to negotiate a deal that I know is not going to give them the desired outcome, I'm going to tell them, you're going to lose out on the perfect house because you're following a process that's guaranteed not to work. And it's like, I fully support it, because we have to be careful when we talk to clients. We have to tread that line very carefully, because they never want to feel like you're going against them. People do want to be protected. They will listen. But I always tell, like, if you have a client who's going to submit stupid offers, Danny, first and foremost, know that whatever offer you want to submit, I fully am going to stand behind it, and I'm going to put the full weight of our negotiation power behind it. However, I'm not doing my job if I don't prepare you for the most likely outcome. And that's when we'll set the expectation, set the stage for what the outcome is. And then when they get bitch slapped and they get the rejection, they're not mad at you for not telling them. But too many people let their clients just submit any offer that they want. And then I've heard agents say, well, you know, they're going to learn their lesson. And if that's your approach, you're being a terrible agent. Like, I always make sure that we are setting the expectation, telling them what to expect, because then when it happens and they do feel the smack, they're not mad at you. And then they come to the next meeting a lot more with their tail between the legs and a lot more willing to let go of the steering wheel and let you take control. But we need to be doing that on the front end, and this is how we're going to do it. So in the introduction, you're going to personally connect with them. I want you to build rapport. I want you to talk and take good, detailed damn notes. If they talk about Kenny and his soccer practice that they're going to, I want you to know about that, and it needs to be put into the CRM. If they talk about that they're a truck person or they love the 49ers, whatever it may be, you make sure that you put that in your notes. We're going to take all that rapport building stuff, put it into our notes, and utilize it throughout the process to continue that great relationship. Understand their story, who they are, who do they work for, who's all going to be affected by this move. Help me better understand your current living situation. We really need to be really intentional with this. And the cool thing is we have the ability to identify body language. We have the ability to identify, like, is this a driver? Is this a high I person? Is this a high S? And then we get to mirror and match their communication styles. So the first literal, like, 5 to 10 minutes is just going to be this intro period and building rapport. The second part is we're going to actually dive into our buyer's guide. We're going to make sure, and again, I'm going to walk you through the buyer's guide, and I'm going to show you what we go through in the pages that I focus on. But the entire point of this buyer guide is we want to be, one, understanding their preferences. We want to give them an education of the market. We want to understand their financial, their financing, their money that they have for the purchase. We're going to discuss strategy. We're going to discuss communication, and then we're going to discuss next steps. So the page here on this first page, there's nothing that I go over. It's like, one, there's 2 types of agents. There's solo agents, and there's agents who are in teams. Solo agents wear every single hat involved in the transaction. So you need to understand whoever you work for. And this is what I will do every time. William, whether you choose to work with me or not, here's exactly what you need to avoid when choosing an agent. And I'm going to now pepper in the doubt with anybody else, any other agent that they're working for. Because what do you guys all think most agents talk about? You guys know how most of these consultations do. So one, I'm going to make sure that they're fearful of individual agents, because individual agents don't have the ability to perform like a team. I'm going to make sure that they understand that they're wearing too many hats and they're not going to have the bandwidth to truly focus on the things that are going to impact their search. I really do a really good job of making sure that they don't want to work with a solo agent, and that we tell them why they're going to work with the team instead. And that this page here is really going to be the primary page that we are going to focus on. If there's one page you guys are going to pay attention to, this is it. And it's the preparation process. So I break down the home buying process into 4 different phases. And I'll talk to Danny. I'm going to break down the process into 4 different phases. Phase 1 is preparation. 2, the actual home search. 3, making offers. And 4, contract to close. And it's my job to make sure you have a full understanding of each of these phases so that you're not going to be surprised, caught off guard, or be unexpectedly disappointed by anything that's going to happen. So the first thing is you're meeting with an agent. Congrats, you're meeting with me. We're going to review the home buying process, make sure that you understand it ins and outs for all the parts at our appointment. And then we're going to make sure that you're pre-approved for mortgage. Now, I'm going to pause here, and this is where I'm going to spend a shit ton of time. When it comes to a lender, like a lot of people be like, have you been pre-approved by a mortgage? And then Danny says yes. And it's like, awesome, Danny, who are you pre-approved by? And he says Bank of America. And you go, shit, I don't want to work at Bank of America. They suck. They don't perform quickly. I don't know who you're working with. They can't, they're terrible. We don't want them. So when you use that approach, it becomes more difficult to pry away Bank of America. Instead, what I'll ask is, hey, Danny, just so you know, the lender that you choose is by far one of the most important pieces of the process. And regardless of my ego, they can be even more important than me. And here's why. The lender, of course, is going to directly impact the out-of-pocket expense that you're going to have to put out of pocket. They're going to affect the interest rate, what you're going to pay on a monthly basis. Obviously, we want to make sure that you have good customer service. Of course, that's important. But the single most important part of this is the one part that you're not aware of and most consumers aren't. And it's, are you getting the best interest rates? Are you getting the best terms? Are you getting the best service with a lender who can perform within a time frame that's going to make us outperform our competition? And I can tell you this, if you're working with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Rocket Mortgage, you can, guys, go name whatever banks are in your area that are the most common. Go name all those banks, the big credit unions, Rocket Mortgage, Loan Depot. If you're working with any of those lenders, I'm going to strongly recommend that you get a second opinion. Because one, they don't perform quickly, they're order takers, they don't offer the best terms or service, and they're not going to be able to perform within a time frame that's going to allow us to outperform our competition. By the way, Danny, who are you pre-approved with? And then they go, Bank of America. Shit, could you put me in contact with your person? Like, when you can install the doubt before they tell you who you use, they don't feel like you're being a salesperson trying to pull them from the lender that they're using. When you can instill that doubt beforehand, and then they have to say that you're working with the lender that you told them not to, now you're not trying to pull them, you just tried to protect them. Now they go, shit, I got to get in contact with a different lender. And we don't use our lender because we get paid or we're getting compensated. We use it specifically because if I come across a vacant property and I'm competing against other homes, I want to make sure that I can get cash in that seller's hands as quickly as humanly possible. If we're dealing with an occupied property, I want to do a 10-day close of escrow on a free 30-day rent back. My lender, if they don't have the ability to perform that quickly, is never going to be able to incentivize a seller that way without those terms. So it's by far the most important piece of this. The lender is going to give me the ability to utilize a strategy that's going to get them the best outcome. That strategy will help them pay less money. It's going to ensure they don't miss out on opportunities, and it's going to create an overall better process and experience for them. Any questions on that?
No, I'm just talking in our Slack about how much I love this shit.
William, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I thought you unmuted yourself.
No, you're great though. I love this.
Cool. So the lender part, like, this is where I'm going to stop, pause. And this does, of course, create a lot more organic conversation. But then we're going to talk about how we're going to negotiate on their behalf for the lenders. Hey, so first and foremost, I have a handful of people that I recommend. They have a track record with me. They perform on time. They perform quickly. They outperform everybody else's offers. But I'm also going to go make sure that we look at your lenders that you're currently considering. And I make sure that we audit your financing and then I'm going to tell them a story. We had one client that was working with a family friend who cost him an extra $40,000 out of pocket to get the deal done that my lender wasn't going to charge them. This is by far one of the most important pieces, and too few people actually put attention into this on the front end, and they don't realize they've made a mistake until they get to closing day and realize how much that this is really going to truly cost. And it's like, by the time you've identified the perfect property, if you wait to go through this process because you want to find the perfect property first, you're going to lose any of the runway that you need to audit the financing, to ensure that you're not being taken advantage of, to ensure that we're working with a lender who's going to give you the tools that you need to be competitive. It's so critically important that we handle this now on the front end, slow down in the process to make sure that you can sprint to the finish line. But if you wait to find the perfect property, you're either going to miss out on the home, or you're going to be forced to move forward with a lender who's going to screw you over with out of pocket in the monthly payment, or not have the ability to perform as quickly as we need them. Does that make sense? And then you can connect them with the lender. But literally, this piece is what I'm going to spend most of my time on. And then you can go through and you can review it with them. You can review the purchase agreement. You can do that type of, I personally don't. I talk about the lender, and then I'm going to go to phase 2, and we're going to talk about the home search process. Most agents, and whether you use me or not, again, constantly pepper in, hey, whether you use me or not, here's exactly what you need to look for and what you need to run from. If you sit down with an agent and the only thing they do is ask about your preferences and they set you up on a search in the MLS, you need to run from that agent because you're working with somebody who's being reactive and not proactive. My job is to make sure that, yes, I'm going to set you up on a search in the MLS, but everybody else is doing that same thing. And you're guaranteeing that every home that you're considering is going to be fought over by a bunch of other buyers who are going to create a bidding war and make the home sell for more than what it's actually worth. What I'm going to focus on for most of this time is how we're going to create off-market inventory for you. And now, guys, you may have different resources than we have. You may have more than we have. You may have less. It doesn't matter if you're on a team or a solo. It doesn't matter what it is. The only thing that matters is that you can show them that you're going to hunt for inventory. Do all of you have the ability to hunt for inventory? Yes or no? Of course, you can literally go in and search any leased property in that neighborhood and look at all the photos for every leased property over the last 7 years. You can literally go through and reach out to every single one of those agents who leased the property so they can contact the landlord directly and find out if they have any interest in selling, or you can reach out to the homeowner directly. You can go in and reach out to all the expired listings. You can create a list out of anything. Whether you do something with that list or not, totally up to you, but it is what's going to secure this contract for you at the end of the day. So I do want you to go deep on it. We use a service called Celebrity Agent. I pull it up. It's a dashboard. You don't have to use Celebrity Agent. Your title rep can literally pull you up every single home that fits within a certain criteria. And I'm going to have that list already prepared, ready to show my client and let them know that my inventory search team, which, by the way, if you don't have an inventory search team, we don't either. It's you. It's the agent. You're the inventory search team, but you don't got to say that. And then you're going to go actively out and hunt inventory and create them opportunity that without you doesn't exist. You're going to talk about how, listen, there's a property yesterday that we submitted an offer on there, or say your listing. We had a listing that had 15 offers. We were only allowed to accept 1, which means 14 people want to live in that neighborhood, but don't have a home now. So what I'm going to do every time, if you do get an offer that's rejected, which I understand that's part of this process, I'm going to take that offer to the 20 houses to the left, the 20 houses to the right, the 20 houses in front, and I'm going to ask the sellers next door, hey, do you see your neighbor's property, 123 Elm Street? My clients are in love with the neighborhood. They submitted them this offer, but unfortunately it didn't get accepted. The home sold for a lot more than what they expected, and now they're kicking themselves in the ass for missing out. They wanted me to extend the same offer to you and see if you've had any interest in selling over the next couple of years. Now, 1, are you going to actually create a house and a seller for that person? Probably not. But are you going to be able to create seller leads that have an interest in selling within the next couple of years? 100%. Like, you can use this as a dual multi-pronged approach to creating more business for you. And it's like when you take the actual offer with the proof of funds, it's not a general solicitation that's saying, hey, just so you know, like, we got a buyer that wants to buy in your neighborhood, and it says, hey, neighbor, I'm walking up to Danny's front porch. I'm talking to Danny. I'm saying, Danny, you see that house that's for sale over there, the for sale sign and all the people you've been seeing for the last couple of weeks? That home sold. My client wanted it. They didn't get it. They'd like to extend this offer. It's 100% valid. There's no solicitation. It's not a bullshit solicitation that most agents do. You will generate leads. And at the end of that, you say, do you or anybody in the neighborhood have the intention of selling within the next couple of years? You say that specifically, so you take the pressure off of an immediate sale, create seller leads for that way. But for the buyer process, you can talk about that as your way for hunting inventory. Just make sure that they know you're going to have a proactive approach for creating inventory as opposed to a reactive approach for creating inventory. It's critically important. All of you have access to, Danny, it's not called Raven anymore. What is it? That system with EXP, it's called...
I forget the name of it.
I'll get it. I'll text it to you, or at least text me and I'll remember. There's a system that has every single EXP off-market listing that's available. You have access to that. Now, again, this type of hunting and searching is only available to your exclusive clientele, and that's it. So then we're going to get to the offering phase. Now, you guys take a look at this page. On this offer part, I'm going to click over and I'm going to switch to this part. Oop. This is where we actually draw the contingencies and the standard timeframes. And we're actually editing this now, but this is the standard time frame. This is the time frame that we are going to recommend and that we're going to operate within. The typical offer, and you're going to put the buyer in the seller's shoes. I want you to pretend that you're selling a home and you've received 2 identical offers. 99% of agents are going to submit an offer with a standard close of escrow, a 21-day loan and appraisal contingency, and a 17-day inspection contingency. These contingencies, and you always stop and you say, help me understand, what do you understand about contingencies? And you ask the client directly, what do you understand about contingencies? And the good news is they're going to understand nothing. And I'm going to articulate to them what the contingencies are, why they're so important. And I always tell people your contingencies are your tie to your deposit. So when you purchase a home, you put down a 3% initial deposit. That money will always be refunded to you so long as you perform within the contingencies of the contract. So I want you to envision balloons, and the balloons represent your deposit. The strings represent the contingencies. When you cut the string and remove the contingency, you don't have a claim back to your deposit. Does that make sense? And you're going to ask them. So the 3 primary contingencies are going to be the appraisal, the inspection, and the loan. That's a lot of things that can go wrong, and most agents are going to submit offers with all 3 of those contingencies. The other thing that's going to be important to you is how long are you going to have those contingencies and those protections in place? Because for you as a homeowner, you're going to be going to imagine you're 17 days into your 30-day escrow. The seller is already packing. They're setting up moves. They've already bought another house. They've already secured movers. They've had all this expense. 17 days into a standard offer, the buyer can literally walk in and say, hey, we changed our minds. We're not going to buy the house. You have to give them their deposit back. Now, here's what we're going to do. And I show them here on this page. Instead of doing a 30-day close of escrow, we're editing this now because now it's going to be a 10 to a 12-day or a 10 to a 15. We're going to be able to perform in half the time. Now, well, what if they're not incentivized by a fast close of escrow? What if they need more time in the property? There's not a seller out there that doesn't want cash in hand faster, but there's plenty who don't want to have to move faster. So what if we can get cash in hand and offer a free 30-day rent back? Give them the occupancy that they need, but get them the cash in hand faster. Not many sellers are not going to be incentivized with that. Do you agree? And you can talk to the buyers and see, do you understand that? Now, with us, these people have 3 contingencies. You technically need all 3 too, because you have a loan, you have an appraisal, and we want to do an inspection. My goal is to make sure that we're submitting an offer with only 1 contingency, and that's going to be the inspections. I want to make it not contingent upon the loan and the appraisal. But Colton, we have to get a loan and appraisal. 100% you do. But we are working with a lender who has the ability to perform within our inspection window. So our goal is to make sure that we are working with a lender who can get me an appraisal back, who can get me the loan back within our get out of jail free card. And if something does go wrong, you're still going to reserve the same exact protections as you had with a fully contingencyed offer. And when we have the ability to articulate, and I'll scratch off this, and I'll say, I want you to look at these 2 offers. Which one of these would you want to accept? The 30-day close of escrow with 3 different contingencies, or the one that's going to put cash in your pocket faster with only 1 contingency and only 5 days to cancel versus 17? And they're going to say, I would want to work with this one. And you say, again, this is why the lender is so incredibly, I had to accept somebody, but this is why this is so incredibly important for you to work with a lender who can get me these back within this 5 to 7 day period. And the clients, even if they haven't agreed to move with your lender yet, I promise you will start. Then when we talk about the offer, I'm going to switch to this page. Now, I want you to understand one thing. I don't ever want you to have to overpay. A very real reality of the market right now is you are going to have to submit offers and have absolutely no idea what your competing offers are submitting at. And it's a really shitty spot for you to be in, because I want you to imagine a home's been listed for $1 million. I want you to imagine that you're willing to pay 1.1, but you have no idea what the other 6 offers have submitted at. So do you automatically offer 1.1? What if the second best offer was $1.05 million? You just cost yourself $50,000 that you didn't need to pay. So I'm going to install, and I need you to make sure that you understand this, because this is a tool that's available to you in the event that you decide it's appropriate. I'm going to utilize the escalation clause as a mechanism and a tool to install into the purchase agreement that's going to prevent you from having to overpay, but it's also going to prevent you from missing out on the property for a price that you are willing to pay. Does that make sense? And then we're going to walk through and tell them, and we will break down what an escalation clause is. This is a mechanism to where we're going to submit our offer at the $1 million like they're asking for, but we're going to install a $10,000 escalation clause. So let's say Charlene submitted an offer at $1,010,000. Our offer is automatically going to ratchet to $1,020,000, beating that second offer, not going to the 1.1 that we're willing to pay. I don't want you to pay more than what you have to, but I also don't want you to get beat out for a price that you are willing to pay. Does that make sense? And then that's when you can go deep on the articulation of what an escalation clause is. And the biggest kickback that I get from agents all the time is, well, Colton, they don't always allow us. You're doing something to secure the fucking buyer brokerage agreement. That's it. You're just utilizing this as a tool to magnify yourself, tell people things that make you sound smart, show strategy that nobody else showed them. You can't use an escalation clause on every single offer, but you certainly can on a lot of them. And it's like our goal is to make sure that the clients understand when that's a tool we can use. I'm not having to explain it to them for the very first time when we're submitting an offer. So we go deep on the offer process and how we're going to submit a more competitive offer. Then we're going to go down. So we break that down. We talk about multiple offers. We tell them what happens there. We tell them what to expect. And then you guys can go into the contract to close. And this is a part where I will discuss with clients, hey, oftentimes I see people losing a property over $5,000 to $10,000 and they're trying to renegotiate. And I've seen them lose the price because they're fighting for a price that they could get during the escrow, but they're trying to get it before they get the seller's commitment. My goal for you as the buyer is to always be on first date behavior. I want you to do the right things, say the right things. I want you to pull out the chair. I want you to be a total gentleman. I want you to do everything that you need to do to get their commitment. And then you guys see it. I use this analogy and it's a horrible one to use, but it's a reality. You see what happens when people get married. All of a sudden, all those great behaviors that earned them the commitment in the first place completely go out the window. I would much rather you show their bad behavior and the willingness to renegotiate $10,000 during escrow than you risk losing the property over that $10,000 before we get to escrow. Because I promise you, the seller's willingness to accept that $10,000 difference is going to be substantially higher during the escrow process than it is before you get your offer accepted. Does that make sense? And then we tell them, I'm going to utilize an inspection team who is going to call out every single detail and everything that is wrong with this property. My goal with my inspector is to make sure that this property looks as scary as humanly possible, because I'm going to leverage that report and I'm going to leverage their findings to negotiate you more favorable terms and pull this deal even more into your favor during the escrow process. Does that make sense? And you're going to continuously just break them through. Does that make sense? And then we're going to talk about the earnest money deposit. We're going to talk about how much time we have to perform the inspections. And I'm going to make sure that they understand, hey guys, we're only submitting, right now we're doing anywhere between 3 to 5 day inspections. Well, what happens if there's a foundation issue? The good news is you're never required to remove your contingency. And I'd much rather ask for forgiveness and permission. And if we need an extension to further evaluate based on any of the findings we found, we'll be able to do it. We'll be able to get you that time. Your deposit's not going to be at risk. But we walk through all of those different findings. So I'm going to spend most of my time on this page, the offer page with the timeframes, and the escalation clause page. That's my primary focus, and that's it. There's a bunch of other shit on here that if you decide you want to use it, you can. You can explain the difference between a buyer's agent and a listing agent. You can explain the difference between a big bank and a credit union and local lenders. You can walk through the do's and don'ts of a mortgage. Don't buy a car. Don't get a credit card. Don't add any debt. You can go through that if you want. I do go through this page. Typical fees that a buyer will pay, typical fees that a seller will pay. We'll walk them through the rest of some of this. You can walk them through, hey, new construction. This is an important piece that I think you should pay attention to. New construction, don't ever walk into a new home builder without me. Because the minute you do, they'll not let me represent you because they don't want you to have an advocate negotiating more favorable terms. Their job and their check and their income is paid for by the builder who employs them. And their job is to make sure that they leverage the deal to the builder's favor, not yours. So if you do walk into a new home, make sure you bring me on that first appointment. Otherwise, I won't be able to represent you. You can go through, we talked about this, variables, all the different things, what happens in appraisal gap. Now, at the end, this is now what we're, oops, shit, fuck, sorry. Let me go back. Now, when we're done with this, you're literally just going to stop and we're going to ask, do you have any questions? You're going to make sure that we identify, we're going to simply ask, do you have any questions? They say, no, that was great. Thank you. It's like, awesome. The next step is for us to make the decision to work together. Would you like me to be the agent who's going to get to work and find you your next home? And if they say yes, fantastic. The next step is we just agree, we formalize the relationship and create the agency. Just know this agency agreement is fully cancelable without any penalty, without any consequence. All I ask, because I'm going to put all of my time, all of my resources, which I just shown you what all our value is, I'm going to put all of this time, money, and effort into you. The only thing that I ask is that you give me the same respect and give me your commitment. And if at any given point in time you feel that I'm not worthy of your commitment, no, I fully expect you to cancel this agreement and go work with the person that you want to work with. And we're done. Like literally, it's real simple when we can articulate value. It's real simple when you can articulate the strategy that you're going to implement to put them into a better position. That is what you guys have to practice more than anything.
Is your buyer broker agreement on that package, like the last page?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of shit on here. And this is actually, we're adding it and changing it now. I'm adding a bunch of guarantees. So we have in here, where is it? We'll assist, like, here's what it includes. You'll receive a home warranty policy up to $600. Like, we guarantee that you're going to get your home warranty covered. We're going to add in there, we guarantee that we're going to get your appraisal covered. By the way, I'm not paying for any of that. I'm going to, one, make sure that the seller pays for it, or two, make sure that the lender pays for it. And then if worst case scenario, if I have to cough up 1 out of 5 inspections or 1 out of 5 appraisals or 1 out of 5 home warranties, I'm willing to, because this will secure you far more income than the fear of having to pay this income will lose. Like the net bottom end of the year, your bottom line will be far more positively impacted by offering this than it will be negatively impacted by actually having to pay it. Most of the time, we can negotiate these things. We'll make sure, like, look, and Kyle Whistle always says this, if you want it to mean something, call it something. We have a showing guarantee. So we'll show you home 7 days a week. We'll discuss the best offer strategy, help you prepare for the terms, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can go into this, but I'm going to add a guarantee for, we will sell, if you're unsatisfied with this property, we will sell it to you for free within the first 12 months. If at any given point in time, you decide that this home's not the one for you, I'm going to sell it to you for free. Well, what if they're not gonna? Anybody who buys a home the next year, they'd be upside down if they had to sell the property. Because while you'll sell it for free on the listing side, they still got to pay a buyer commission, they still got to pay closing costs, and then they got to go buy another freaking house. Not worried about actually ever having to do it, but we're going to utilize and implement guarantees that are going to continue to be a magnet to show what you provide that others don't. All right. You can show them how, like, if they have a home to sell, we'll walk them through the simple sale, which is where they can utilize the equity of their current home to purchase the next property. We make sure that they understand how they can be a cash offer. It's real simple, but we just walk into that. So we'll share this. And the buyer brokerage agreement, we just use the California buyer brokerage agreement.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And that's it.
Woo! Can we get a little clap? Little clap for our boy.
Thank you for recording this, because now I finally have something I can send.
Yes. Feel free to edit it however you want. Of course. Guys, if we have referrals for LA, can we please send them directly to Colton? Because that's how he does his personal sales business. So let's get him a couple deals this year for stepping up and doing this for us. Do you want us to give you, I already gave you a shout out on Instagram. What else do you want us to do for you?
Nothing at all. Appreciate you. Love you. Thanks for having me on. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll make sure, just request this stuff from Holly and she'll send it to you. The buyer guarantees are going to be a big piece of this, and we're going to make sure we show it to them. Like we're going to start doing some like raffle type stuff. We're going to make sure that they know upon the first meeting, like our whole goal on that first meeting is to make sure that we have clearly articulated, I'm the only decision that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it's going to be things like that appraisal, the appraisal paid guarantee. It's going to be the home warranty protection guarantee. It's going to be like it or love it guaranteed, where if you don't like this property, we'll sell it to you within the first 12 months for free. Like, I just want us to make sure that we are giving them the full tools and the full guarantees and everything that makes you awesome. And we're coming up with what those are. So one, if you guys think of any others that are awesome, let us know, because we'll add it into ours too. And then we put in there like a buyer referral loyalty program, which works really good. We did this, come up with a variation of it, but we did a $10,000 vacay giveaway. And it's like, hey, one, we know we're going to absolutely crush it for you. You're going to love our service and you're going to refer us clients. It's how we built our business. But I just want you to know we appreciate that. And we want to make sure that you're rewarded for that behavior. And we're not going to say behavior, but it's like, one, for every referral that they get, we enter them into a raffle. At the end of the year, we're giving away that. Dude, we've gotten, since we've announced this, so many fucking referrals from people before we've even closed escrow, because they're like, oh, my mom's looking to buy a house. Can you guys talk to her? Can you help her in this area? And I think we're going to, like, based on the results that we're already getting on it, I'm probably going to move it to quarterly. But it's like, just getting anything that makes you look different than everyone else do. And it doesn't have to be a vacay giveaway. It can be a fucking flat screen TV or a $2,500 Home Depot gift card, whatever you want it to be. But if we can reward behavior and show we appreciate it, this is what we expect from you, this is what you should expect from us, we've just gotten really good reaction out of it.
I know we're you, me, and Mark are line steppers. Have you by chance talked to anyone if this is like, because I know we're not allowed to give out direct.
You can't give cash, but you 100% can do giveaways.
Okay.
Like we do, yeah, you 100%, it's fully legal and compliant. You're
Cool.
allowed to do giveaways. You're allowed, like we do them during every client appreciation event.
Awesome.
It's just a raffle.
Cool.
So those are fully compliant.
We're on it. We gave away a Peloton 2 years ago, but it
You
wasn't.
had mine.
All right, brother. Let me get back to your let you get back to your stuff. Thank you, dude, for
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
the best, man. Really, truly. Let me switch back to the host before you hang up. All right, dude.
All right, man. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.